The highest role of the Supreme Court is to be a champion of the freedom and the rights and the democratic self-government of the people.
To review the actions of the legislature and the executive branch.
To ensure that justice is served here in the United States, that there is balance and fairness.
To support viewpoints that are not the viewpoints that are dominant with the majority.
In 1789, the first court was established by the Judiciary Act, which had 6 justices. Over the course of the next 80 years, the court changed in size 6 times. Despite this, the number of justices has remained at 9 since 1869. However, the increasingly partisan nomination process over the past 4 years has brought Supreme Court reform back into the public eye in a way that has not been seen since the 1950s.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court.
Anybody that's ever spent any time thinking about the nomination and Senate confirmation process now agrees that it's broken. It's gotten way too political.
That inconsistency in how we apply the rules of governing is not good for the country, and it undermines the public's trust in who we are as a democracy.
The Supreme Court's been a profoundly reactionary and conservative institution for the vast majority of American history.
As more people are thinking about how to ensure that the Supreme Court is structured in a way that is fair and just, strategies such as court packing have been brought to the table. Court packing refers to adding more justices to the Supreme Court. In practice, this gives the political party in power more control over the ideology of the court by giving them the opportunity to appoint more justices that align with their views.
We have the Republican Party, which has only won the popular vote once in the last 6 elections, controlling 6 of the 9 seats on the U.S. Supreme Court.
There's been Supreme Court packing, obviously, in the way the Senate has handled the nominations over the past, since 2016 at least.
The only option for rebalancing the court and for producing a court that would let the next administration address the emergencies we face is court expansion.
Experts have also brought attention to the idea that more justices on the court means that more people are weighing in on issues that can drastically change the country. Even though many experts agree that it is constitutional, court packing could still have several potential harms.
Short-term and long-term both, there's an issue of trust. And if you can't trust the judicial branch of the government, then we really are struggling as a democracy.
It undermines the credibility and the independence and our confidence in the Supreme Court.
As court reform has become a more prominent issue, other alternative reforms have also been suggested. One of these is term limits, which would require justices to retire after 18 years. This would theoretically allow each president to nominate 2 justices per term.
It would take some of the pressure off the nomination and confirmation process. Right now, we treat each Supreme Court nomination like the whole world is at stake, and that's why we fight so hard over it. But if the term limits had the proposed effect, the stakes of each nomination wouldn't be as great. That's making the court more democratic and more responsive to changing views of the voters and of the political process.
In addition to court packing and term limits, more drastic structural changes such as the lottery system and balanced bench have been proposed to solve the issues at hand.
Supreme Court lottery. And there we say, let's just imagine the judges on the intermediate federal appellate courts. So the judges of the United States Court of Appeals, formally appoint them all as Supreme Court justices and have a Supreme Court that sits in panels for brief periods. So any given appointment to the Supreme Court is not particularly consequential, because all you're doing is putting another person into the lottery. The other approach we call the balanced bench. And the idea there is, imagine a court where you have a certain number of the seats are just sort of designated as belonging to the 2 competing political parties. And then the wrinkle is we make those 10 justices select another 5 justices drawn from the lower courts, and by unanimous consent. The idea is you kind of use the tool of partisanship in order to actually achieve a court where some of the members would be less likely to be straightforward partisans because we need consensus on those 5 additional members.
These reforms minimize the impact of a single justice or nomination, which will in turn lead to a less politicized and more stable system that still stays relevant to the ideas and concerns of the United States. However, these measures would likely require an amendment to the Constitution, making them much harder to implement. Others say that many of the problems with the Supreme Court stem from inconsistencies with the Senate's advice and consent of nominees rather than the structure of the court itself.
I think the solution is to ensure that the process that we follow in the nomination process as well as in the confirmation process, that there is consistency, and that could be done with rules of the Senate, I believe.
As we become more aware of the role the Supreme Court plays in the functioning of our democracy, it is important that we work to implement reforms that support a court that finds solutions to controversial issues while still upholding the Constitution.